Let me read you something, and I'll show you why it's worth your listening to me today. This was written 2 years ago by Barbara Anderson when they came for Savage. Let me explain something to you. I have been found guilty of a thought crime. You remember reading in college Orwell? And you say, oh, well, that's terrible. Boy, a country can't find a man guilty for what he thinks. Well, what he says. I mean, we have freedom of speech, don't we? Well, do we? Can we? Well, I've been found guilty of a thought crime. Barbara Anderson wrote, a representative of the British government has banned Michael Savage from that country. Savage has been listed among such real haters as a Hezbollah terrorist, a leader of Hamas, white supremacist, former Ku Klux Klan Grand Wizard, and Russian skinheads now in prison for murdering immigrants. This is a hateful, murderous lot. And on this blacklist by Home Secretary Jackie Smith, in an in-your-face announcement, Smith has added Michael Savage. Since there are no crimes committed by Savage, it can only be surmised that he appears there because he is deemed hateful and may stir up feelings of hate and incitement to violence. Savage often yells at those he thinks are steering us into socialism or worse. He sometimes is strident. He is articulate and makes his case. There have been callers who would like to go farther than that, but Savage has carefully drawn that line beyond which he will not go. He will not call for violence, nor will he stand for callers who would like to do so. His is a war of words, nothing more. Now that we live in a new world order, globalism reigns supreme. What is happening overseas has more importance than ever, she wrote. However, instead of being able to count on traditional allies, we find the government of Britain colluding with a push toward punishing so-called hate crimes. Canada has already succumbed to this push, stifling religious opinions that do not toe their particular line. The European Union has become almost monolithic. Britain's representatives have betrayed the common man in forcing this union. It is largely hated because the citizens have little input as to how they will be governed. However, the elites that run the country have learned well how to leverage a small amount of power. It is the same all over the EU to a large extent. The EU, having the blueprint and having had time to iron out the problems, stands ready to help implement our own union, the North American Union. Our grand plan is to merge Mexico, Canada, and the U.S. into the North American Union. Connecting the dots, we can see that our own domestic hate legislation is being pushed along even now. The Democrats have always wanted it. Now they think they're in a position to ram it through. The victims, the beneficiaries of this legislation, were chosen based on actual or perceived sexual orientation, gender identity. And she goes on. It's an amazing article. It's an amazing article by Barbara Anderson when they came for Savage. Basically, you have to understand something. This is an international effort, and I have been chosen to pay for your sins. She concludes by saying this. A wise man said that with politics there are no coincidences. Accusing hatred of those who just want to give an opinion comes right back to Michael Savage. Since we are all citizens of the world, according to some, the globalists zero in on those who speak against them. One of the loudest speaking against the New World Order is Savage. To take him on calls for a certain chutzpah, unless you know that your allies are very strong. I think that Smith knew of Savage and has been egged on by the globalists in the USA. Usually the modus operandi is to whittle away at some of the weaker structures until the opposition falls. With Savage, Smith has taken on the top. It is a gamble. And guess what? They won. You know why? Because Rush did not say one word. The globalists have won. They came for Savage, and Rush continued to lie to you about how much he cared about freedom. I'm blaming Rush because Rush Limbaugh has the power to have changed the course of human events with regard to Michael Savage. But he's known to be a thin-skinned, jealous little man who cannot stomach any real competition. And so he would rather sacrifice his principles, if he has any, to his ego and his greed. Not unlike Obama, not unlike Cameron, not unlike any other politician. Fox News, prostitutes, pimps, terrorists, degenerates of every kind make a regular appearance on that circus of Fox News. They have never, ever had Michael Savage on to present his case. And that's why I have enmity towards the American conservative media. Do you understand what I'm going through? Now, you say, all right, heard enough about it. I'm not interested in it. Tell us some jokes. Tell us about your father's antique store. Tell us how you threw up from yesterday's lunch. I don't know that I want to do that right now. You have an option. You can tune into some fraud talking about nothing, about Obama, how bad he is. You want me to read you what my monologue was for today in the middle of all of this? I'll do